Welcome to the It's All for Love podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Mazza, the healing dancer. This podcast, as you already know, is all about Michael Jackson and how he continues to spread love in the world and in our lives. In this episode, I am speaking with Siren from Alberta, Canada. We talk a lot about the spiritual aspect of Michael and how love is the answer. We also mention how Michael is a love that is bigger than us all. Siren mentions in this episode that all Michael wanted was love. He wanted for us to be love in the world and to love one another. I can't wait for you to hear Siren's spiritual experience when Michael struck her in the heart and how she was guided by Michael to finally step into her life. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe and like this video, and please feel free to comment and let us know how you like the episode. If you are listening on any other podcast platform, please subscribe there as well, and I would absolutely love it if you would leave me a loving review. I am always looking for more guests to be on this podcast, so if you are interested in being on this podcast and telling your Michael Jackson story, I would absolutely love to talk with you. So reach out to me on either social media. It's All for Love Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, or you can email me at mjitsallforlove@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening and watching It's All for Love podcast. I will see you in the next episode. Hello, and welcome again to the It's All for Love podcast. Today, I have my beautiful friend Siren with me. So we are just going to jump right into it. I'm going to do a little introduction. And Siren is from Canada. She is an artist. She has a passion. Her passion is iconography. Did I say that right?
Iconography.
Iconography. See, I know say that. Thank you. She sells prints and also does commissioned work. She has illustrated books and has a few books of her own. And she created a Michael tarot and oracle card deck, which I have. I'll show you later. I love them all because you know I love my spiritual stuff, my woo-woo stuff, I call it. And she also has an Etsy site where she offers handmade Michael spiritual items, which is also amazing. So Siren is amazing all around. So welcome to the It's All for Love podcast. And thank you so much for being here with us and celebrating Michael and the love that he continues to share in the world. So I'm going to
for inviting me. It's great to
be here. So I'm going to start with the question that I like to ask everybody. The question that you inspired, when did Michael strike you in the heart and what happened?
Wow. The actual moment, I can't pinpoint it as much as most people can, but I know that because for me, it kind of happened softly and I didn't notice. And so it was actually when I went to see the movie This Is It in the movie theaters, November 2nd, 2009. And I was there with a large group of girlfriends, and we were just watching, and something happened to me. I just saw something that I didn't recognize, and I was just having this spiritual experience, which I didn't recognize as a spiritual experience at the time because I'd never had one really before that was organic like that and it was direct. And so what I started doing was looking around the theater and thinking, and I always say when I tell this story, I was thinking, what kind of movie is this? Like, what's going on? But everyone else seemed to be just watching it like a normal movie. No one else was looking around. Nobody else looked confused or like anything was happening to them. They were, in rhythm with the music or smiling or, whatever was happening on the screen. And for me, it was all internal. And I think like, because I did have all of Michael's music, like growing up as Michael's albums were released. I bought them. but I had a lot of people's music. So it wasn't like I didn't know anything really about him. Um, other than, what was in the news, and it's hard not to know something about Michael, if you're on the planet Earth. But other than that, I didn't know what he was really about. I didn't know any real details. So what I saw when I was watching him was I saw Michael Jackson, the human being, which I didn't. It's strange to think that you've been watching somebody since they were a little boy and not notice they were a human being. But and so his humanity, his humanness, and the beauty of that, um, kind of went past my thinking and straight into my heart. And so then what happened when I made that connection, at the same time I experienced him spiritually. So the divinity within him, the soul of him, I think, kind of both happened at the same time. And so I just kind of went away thinking that was weird. And, you know, when I went home, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And I went online, which I was not an online person, and started looking for him, to figure out what I missed,
Mm.
and so that's what I did. Like everybody else, I think mostly everybody else who was suddenly struck. So I guess I was suddenly struck, but I didn't recognize what it was. So I just for 2 years was going backward through his life and trying to make sense of what happened to me. And the closer I looked, the more I realized what it was that my soul recognized, uh, that was beyond my finiteness, that I didn't notice before by just looking at Superstar or listening to his music. And so that just, my heart kind of cracked wide open as I learned about him. And it, it kind of undid me as a human being, because the thing about looking at Michael is he's a mirror, not in the sense that he reflects you back through him, but because you see what the what you want to be, everything that a human being should be, can be, anything you could aspire to comes back to you. And so it's like looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, wow, what have I done with my life? And who am I? Um, and so I started to learn who I was and what I wanted to be and what I wasn't. And he just became this beautiful example of the human spirit. And that at the same time, um, realizing all that he'd sacrificed and all that he'd done with his art and his life in order to leave that imprint for us, that pathway for us to follow and live a life of love. And so I became extremely grateful and humbled by that, and which kind of made me scramble a bit spiritually, wanting to give him something back.
Mm.
But of course, he wasn't on the planet anymore, and so then you go through that all of that turmoil and trying to figure out even what a value you have that you could offer.
Mm.
And realizing that he told us all along the only thing that he wanted was love, for us to be love in the world and to love one another. And so then for me anyway, I just kind of, it taught me what love was. It shifted my perspective, my complete understanding of love, so that it wasn't so much selfish, like he talks about in um, Man in the Mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love. without knowing it, the kind of love that fulfills you, that you're looking outside of you, wanting other people to contribute to, and instead realizing that the spirit of love is giving, and it's looking within and becoming our best selves so
Mhm.
that we can offer that to others and to the world. And so it's a life's work. And I also don't believe it's something that you like elevate yourself to. I think as human beings, it's just everything's in the moment, you
Mm.
know. Um, every day, every circumstance, every opportunity we have is just a chance to be loved in that moment. And when we get it wrong, not judging ourselves or evaluating ourselves on this grand, blanket overview, but realizing that in the next moment, we can be love in that moment. And I really feel like that's what Michael showed us to do. Like he really lived a life of that, which means, we as human beings, we don't have foresight with everything. You don't always know what's the best thing to do. Sometimes you're going to make decisions and they're going to be maybe the wrong ones. But I really feel like the only way to go wrong is to not choose from your heart, is to choose from anything other than love is the wrong answer. Love is the answer. So um yeah, and so we're still human beings. So we can, if we choose from love and we make a human mistake, the love is what makes it beautiful. And so um, that's what I've learned, and that's what I work on in myself every waking moment. Just the mindfulness of love, and learning about what that means and how to be it. And Michael is my example. I can look at him and see, I can see a living example of what that looks like.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love your story so much. I mean, I can relate to a lot of it myself, but when I think of Michael, the word love comes to mind, instantly, because that is exactly what his message was, still is. And the only way that I can describe his energy, you know,
Yes.
and that's what inspires so many of us, so there's so many of us that feel the same way, that it wasn't just, it wasn't his extraordinary talent, that he had as a performer, as an entertainer. That is why we all love him so much. It's really because of the exact person that he emanated to the world, that he showed us his true heart. And why wouldn't you want to be like that? Like to strive to be love. That's all we all want as humans anyway, is to be loved. So why not share
Yes,
it with everybody?
absolutely. And then when we think the way to be loved is to get other people to love us, is the backwards way of doing it. And so Michael is such an example of being an inexhaustible. The thing about love is that it doesn't run out if you're sourcing it, from where the source of love, instead of just yourself or others. It's so much bigger than that. And I think that's one of the things I felt when I saw the movie. This is it. It was
Mhm.
this love that was bigger than me, which I didn't recognize as love because it wasn't my experience with it
Right.
so far. My love was about relationships, my family and my friends and significant others and all of that. It was a um, giving and receiving, but Michael's way of loving was just giving, giving, giving. And the spirit of love is that, and it doesn't get tired or resentful, or
Mhm.
even feel like somebody doesn't deserve it, so you withhold it. There's none of that. It's just, which is why it's so hard for people, I think, to get Michael, because um he has such a huge understanding, and is such an embodiment of something that we're so estranged from.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. And like, I love when you said, love is the answer. You know, we say that all the time. And that's when I turn to that when I'm having, like, I don't know, a hard time, or if I'm angry at something or somebody, I've started answering, like, asking myself, what would love do? Like,
Yeah.
how would love handle this? How can I come at this in a loving way? So that's another thing I feel like I learned from Michael.
Yes.
You know,
That's my biggest thing. And oh, it's such a beautiful way to live, but the hardest possible way as well, but the most rewarding and the most purposeful. Um, you never have to wonder what you're here for or think that your life has no value or you don't have anything to offer, because when you know that love and you're living into it, you know that that's worth offering and worth living, worth learning and sacrificing for, and everything that comes with it. So,
I know we've talked about this a little bit, but if has anything come to mind about how Michael has inspired you throughout your life in other ways?
yeah, well, everything we just said,
Right. Yeah.
the love and the reason for being alive. Besides that,
Yes.
besides my reason for everything, um, I didn't come to Michael until 2009, and so I was like 40 at the time. Um, and so there's 40 years before then that I could have been learning from him
Hmm.
and wasn't. But there's this one thing that I remembered about him, that I admired about him before 2009, really all the way through school and growing up. And just as being somebody who was kind of, well, bullied in school, not like excluded from everything, just it was really hard time for me. But I also knew that I didn't want to stop being me and try to emulate them to fit in or not be excluded, or make my life easier. I didn't really know how to do that. It wasn't really that I made a choice for integrity as much as I didn't know how to not be me.
Right.
And but the one thing that I really noticed about Michael was that he was so uniquely himself, like so gigantically himself, that even when everybody was against him, everybody, bullied him at like a global scale,
Hmm.
um, he was more him than ever.
Yeah.
He never held back. He never allowed uh, that kind of treatment to alter his purpose or his focus or who he was or how he was being, because he knew and like just knew in his heart what he was here for and believed so much in the power of love, um, that he was unshakable with it. Doesn't mean he didn't get hurt by it, because he was human, but that's the point, is to do it anyway. And I think that's why, even after all the terrible things that happened to him, he still had joy in his heart, because he lived from that foundation of love.
Yeah. He still he didn't let it like taint him at all. He still continued to be that light, in the world, and
Yeah,
continued to love, and he didn't even hate on anybody, you know.
yeah,
He was like,
yeah. So seeing that when I was younger and on not being included, and that's damaging to your self-esteem and your confidence.
mhm,
But seeing somebody um, who was, wholly themselves and with so much confidence and self-esteem, I felt like it was courageous, and I admired it in him. So it kind of gave me something to admire in myself, which I didn't really know anything else
Mhm.
that I loved about me. So that kind of, I didn't know how much it helped me until after 2009, until I was reflecting on my life, um, when Michael had come into back into it. And so, uh, when you're wondering if you missed, a lifetime of Michael by not noticing what he was doing or who he was or what he was here for while he was here, he was still impacting me,
Right.
with his examples. So.
Nice. Have you had any, well, I know the answer to this, but have you had any Michael Jackson synchronicities? So how does Michael continue to magically show up in your life?
Wow, all the time. Like there's big things, but you know what the thing is that it's so constant that I can't hang on to them. Like I forget what they are
Mhm.
because it's just like that's life with Michael. It's just this magical experience that, you can't live in the past. You're
Right.
so in the now because everything's happening right now. Um, I did I did some illustrations for a book by Brenda Jenkins called The Seventh Child, and we worked on it together. And so as she was writing that book, I was creating the art for it. So it was like two separate creations
Mhm.
happening like parallel to one another. So she didn't write the book and say, "Can you illustrate my story?" We just were doing it together. And so um, when we were doing that book, like really insanely physical things were manifesting in our lives. Like that book came alive in our life, like mangoes. There's a part in the book about a mango tree, and mangoes were everywhere. And one of the paintings I did had a snake in a tree, and I didn't want there to be a snake in the tree. It seemed negative or something. And for days, snakes kept appearing, like this box of wooden snakes, like on Brenda's computer one morning when she woke up, like just like wildly, out of nowhere kind of magical things. But every day, like if whatever question I have, whatever on my heart, you know, I am left to use my own, make my own decisions. And I don't really feel like he gives me the answers to everything. What I feel like he does is just remind me about love. And then whenever I make a decision, something happens immediately after it that kind of confirms it. There's like you see something that is exactly what you decided to do or whatever. And it's just like it's just this it's like stepping, like he says in How I Make Music, from his book Dancing the Dream. It's like stepping into a river and joining the flow. Like I feel like that's what's happened to my life since Michael. Like I stepped into my life
Mhm.
and it's been flowing all along. I just hadn't noticed.
Wow.
So kind of put me in touch with that. So I
Yeah.
see how the world, how the universe, how nature is in in in, in sync with my life.
Yeah.
And just makes me feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Oh, it's beautiful. If you had to choose one song that you loved of Michael's, what would it be?
That's the most ridiculous question
Is it's the
because
hardest
it changes
question.
all the time, right? Like
No. Well, that's why it's like, and I did an episode with my friend Taryn, and that was what we were talking about. It's like it can depend on the mood that you're in, the day that you're in. Like, so today, if you could pick a song, what would it be?
uh, well, there's two different reasons because, like, if I think of my if I had to pick one song, I would pick "Heal the World"
Okay.
because I know that's the one Michael chose.
Right.
He did an interview once, and they asked him, "What's your favorite song?" That's the first thing that He didn't even have to think about it. That song
Right.
came out because that's his legacy. That's what he wants.
Right.
So for me, it's my favorite because it's his favorite and it meant the most to him.
Mhm.
But I think personally, it's the song that probably most people don't know, but Michael people will know, is On the Line.
Mhm.
Um, because it's just the story of Michael in my life. Like that's what he's given me, is that the like calling me out and and encouraging me and inspiring me to put my whole self into everything that I do. Put your heart on the line.
Yeah.
Whatever it is you're doing, the tiniest thing or the most important day of your life, you put your heart on the line, and um, you'll never have any regrets. And there's just so much joy in living your life, knowing that you are living it with every ounce of your being. And I just feel so alive. There's nothing mundane anymore.
No, that's for sure.
Mhm.
All right. If you had to pick a favorite music video short film, which one would that be?
Yeah, and that one split too. And the reason is it's also reflective of my journey is um, because of the way that I first dis- experienced Michael was his humanity struck me in its full divinity, that we all are meant to be that holy human, holy divine being, these two halves that come together to make this perfect self. And so I have two because one of them is so human. It's so about humanity, about the tangible world, about being alive, which is Earth Song.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and talk about putting your heart on the line. Michael's whole being is in that song. When he sang it, when he wrote it, the video, all of it is just like there's just so much passion and so much soul in it, like just everything that he had emotionally um, went into the creation of that. And so that video, I just find it so powerful. It's a little hard to watch, but in a in a really beautiful way, Michael wasn't afraid to shake us up,
Mm-hmm.
tell us the truth, make us look at things that is uncomfortable, that we'd really rather avoid and not know.
Mm-hmm.
But he was so passionate about it, and believed in us so much that we would be too, and calling us up to participate, and so that one. And then my other one is this the spiritual aspect of it, which is it's the um, it's the live performance of "Will You Be There" from MTV's 10th.
Yes.
Uh, it's I don't know. I'm out of my body when I watch that. It's very the choreography is stunning. It's very symbolic and brilliant and deep reaching, and it speaks to you. And the more you pay attention, the more it has to say. Um, it's just a work of art and stirring. So yeah, those are my two.
Uh, now I have to watch it because I haven't seen it in a while. But I remember that. Yeah. It's so just like,
It's very
ah,
distracting because he's so beautiful. You can't take your eyes off him, but
no.
there's things happening, around with the choreography that if you can tear your eyes away from him for a second, get the whole story. It's brilliantly done.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to watch it and learn the choreography.
Yes,
Yeah. Do a video on it.
for
Uh,
sure.
what do you want the world to know about Michael?
you know, what he said in an interview once was he wanted to be remembered as a person who brought light into the world and as a voice for the voiceless children. Um, wow, wouldn't it be beautiful if the world knew that? I would want the world to know what he wanted them to know. And it's so easy to know. All we really need to do is just look at him, look at his life, 5 minutes out of our lives, and you just see what he's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't, we're so distracted by, tabloids and
Right.
sensationalism and even his art. It's so hard to, like, I didn't until this is it. It's so hard to see the human being on the other side of this spectacular superstar and genius level art that he created. And so, but that was just I mean, he's hidden in plain sight. That was just he used everything, every tool he had. He used it for that purpose, to bring light into our lives, bring love into the world, to help those who were helpless, to
Yeah.
speak up for those who needed a voice. So his humanitarian work, you know, is speaks volumes, almost incomparable. And he just used his art and his money, his time, his focus, his connections, his platform, everything he had for that purpose. So what I would like the world to know is who he really was, who he really is.
Yeah. Amen. Well, that's what we are spreading. We are letting the world know exactly who Michael was. He wasn't just the performer and entertainer. He was love.
Yes.
Still is love. So, yeah. Well, before I ask you to tell everybody where they can find you and all of your beautiful art, I want to just show you something. So this little pendant here, I know you can't see it really, but look at how beautiful this is.
I can see.
Can you see it? Good. So this, I think I got this off your Etsy shop
Mhm.
a while ago, but this little amulet, I guess I would call it, has water from Neverland in it. And it's just so beautiful. I love it. And I love having it close to my heart or on my heart center. So I can feel like the energy from Neverland. I went to Neverland last year with Siren and Brenda, who was in the episode before this one, and a couple other beautiful souls for my first time. And the energy at Neverland is, I can't even explain it. I can't. It's so peaceful and just and loving that even just hanging out there is like you don't ever want to leave. So I'll say about that. So we can
So
get
we didn't.
right. So we stay there days. And then of course some of my favorite things really from Siren are the cards, because I'm so like into the tarot and the oracle cards. So we have the Major Love Arcana, and it's all her art. Beautiful, beautiful art. So if you love tarot, I suggest you check these out. And then we have the oracle. Archangel Michael oracle cards. So this is the front, and then yeah, all of her art again. And then this is one of my favorite things to carry around. I got this a while ago. I can't see it. Oh, I can't see it. Hold on. Right. Hold on. Maybe if I
I don't
turn.
know.
It's a bag. There we go. A little bit more of it.
I know.
Well, it's a bag you get because I said in the beginning that Siren, you can get prints of her art and put them on fun things like that. Can you still do that on your website? Do you still
Yeah.
sell the bags, or do you sell Like,
Yeah, I have a few tote bags still on Society 6. So, but the easiest way to find those kinds of things is just to go directly to my website, which is mjartbysiren.com. And I have links to all of my other sites there. So you'll find a link to my Etsy site and my Society 6. And I think even my Instagram. But yeah, so that's probably the most direct way, easiest
okay.
way.
And I'll put all the information in the show notes for anybody that's interested. So they can find you and your beautiful art and all the stuff that you create. I definitely check it out because I mean I get lost in your website and I'm like, what do I want now? I need to go back and get something else for myself, love myself and buy something for me.
Yeah. I just want to mention too that all of the money that I make from that, which is not very much, but it does go to charity. So it either goes to MJL, Michael Jackson's Legacy, which is my favorite, beautiful little Michael-centered charity. A very small group of hearts that are doing amazing things. They've even built an orphanage. So they're fantastic. They do fantastic work. So I like to help them out whenever I can. And also the other thing I like to do if I can is buy copies of Michael's book, Dancing the Dream. I buy new copies and then distribute them to places like hospitals,
Wow.
schools, stuff like that. So just to share Michael with the
Beautiful.
world, true self,
Yeah.
love that book. It's like a cornerstone of my life. I really feel like it is like a time capsule of his heart. So,
So for anyone listening that wants to know any more about Michael Jackson and who he really was, read that book, Dancing the Dream. Yeah. You'll find that total window into his soul.
yes.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Siren,
Thank you.
talking with me about our favorite person.
Yes.
Been wonderful. And yeah, that's it for today. So hopefully I'll have you on again in the future.
Sounds
And
great.
signing off. It's all for love. We love you. Love you.
Thank you. Love you, Cheryl.
Love you too.